McClunky.
McClunky.
Welcome, everybody, to the long-awaited Rings of Power Season 1 discussion. I am joined by AJ and Richard.
Hey.
We're all very happy to be here. We're excited to talk about the Rings of Power. I am, at least. I mean, I kind of came around by the end of the show a little bit, but
Richard's here because Richard's upset because he hates the show, and I'm upset that Richard hates the show.
I forgot that we were even doing this today.
God damn it, Richard.
Well,
That's how little I care about
Sam
this
reminded
show.
me yesterday. I'm like, that's fucking tomorrow. Oh shit!
This is what happens when I forget to do the Discord event things. Like I forgot to do that this week. And oof.
I can't stress how much I rely on those because my own schedule's so hectic that like those really help me out.
I will try and get that out for next week for the stuff that we got. Oh, we only got like Hot
We only
D.
got a
It's
couple
the
things.
end of Hot D next week, so I mean,
I think we should expand our streaming platform to more things.
yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Because so far we've just been doing a lot of discussions, which are cool. I like them. Let's keep on doing that. But I think we should do more things, draw in a bigger crowd. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna be doing Token Tuesday next week. That's gonna be like an art stuff me and Kaz are doing, where we're going through all of the monster manual and stuff, making tokens. So that'll be fun.
I could stream some game design stuff. Get like 5 people that watch that shit on Twitch.
Hell yeah, man! Get on that stuff. Honestly, yeah.
Even just gaming, like stealing what Kaz is doing and putting it on McClunky. Like
Yeah.
when we played Phasmo the other day, that was basically just McClunky Squadron plays Phasmo.
Oh, we did. I was streaming that the other day too. Like when we did
perfect.
that
Yeah,
the week before. That's actually going to be uploaded this week onto our YouTube channel. The thumbnail is amazing because it's literally just AJ like holding my fucking head. So
Perfect.
check out that one. I think that's coming out. Actually, I got it right here.
You're
October-
missing one thing from that yesterday's stream though. Someone being in VR.
True. That made a world of difference. I'm
Uh,
considering myself an honorary McClunky Squadron member at this point, since I'm pretty much always here.
Oh hell yeah,
Yeah.
man! I would definitely consider you a member of the squad.
You don't even introduce me as like a guest anymore. I'm just here.
We got Richard and AJ. And
The
everyone else.
Phasmophobia live stream will probably be up on our YouTube channel by the time this is on the YouTube channel, since it's coming out on the 25th. But if you're watching this live, then yeah, check that out in 3 days on our YouTube channel. But yeah, we're talking about Rings of Power. The whole season, because yeah, talking about a lot of shows at once was getting all ready to be hectic, so I think this was the one that if we talked about it week to week would have been woof. So just getting the whole season out of the way in a huge discussion video.
Probably trigger warning for anyone watching. This might be a bit spicy of a discussion.
Yeah, it might go places. If you've been watching our other shows, like I think in House of the Dragon mostly, we're talking about Rings of Power a little bit usually, and it does get to be a little bit of a contentious point, but we're gonna try and keep it a little civil today. But knowing how we are, I don't know how that's gonna go.
Yeah. And I don't necessarily even mean like, us arguing. There's some points in this show that I think can cause some feelings,
I'm coming in here with this show in a place of positivity, and I want to keep it that way, but it's not gonna. I know that
I'm coming in a place
because
at the
Richard's
middle.
coming here with straight negativity.
I'm definitely
full
middle.
hatred.
Richard is definitely bottom. Like it's like we together we make like the Triforce pretty much.
I like to start most things with a place of positivity.
And then descend. Yeah, I don't know.
Namaste.
I go into things with like I had no hype going into Rings of Power, honestly. Like I watched it, even I think there were 2 episodes when I watched it. Like I hadn't kept up with it right away. But I was hearing about like the pre-stuff going into the show, and I was like, yeah, it could be cool, but knowing how the internet is, I saw that immediately and was like, oh boy. So
Yeah, I was really excited when the show was announced. I was really excited initially when they started showing like screen caps and people playing, who's playing what. That stuff didn't really bother me until I saw the first trailer, and then I'm like, oh no. And then
What about the
it's-
first trailer though? Like caused you to change?
I can't say anything in particular because it's been so long, but I just remember seeing that first trailer and thinking like, I don't know if this looks good. The landscapes look good, but it's like I believe the first trailer, that's all they showed was landscapes.
I've been going into new things recently without looking at like trailers or previous like established things to get like
Yeah.
a fresh set of eyes on it.
I will admit that I was probably my expectations were probably tainted initially because of the way that Amazon marketed this show, which I find despicable.
I will give you one thing, Richard. Like, I definitely agree that they spent way too much fucking money on this show for like, for it pretty much being like in my opinion, like a pretty good show, but nowhere near like perfect for what the money would imply.
Yeah.
Right. Like even if I were like if I were to kind of stamp down my hatred for this show, which is bountiful, I even if I were to go into this and say like it is an okay fantasy show, the sheer amount of money that they spent on it leaves me wondering how the fuck they came out with an okay show.
Well,
Yeah.
and how that this can be making, like, I don't know how streaming shows work in a general sense on profit, but like I don't see how you're making that money back on this when I feel like the hype is still more around House of the Dragon, which is a fraction of the budget. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy to me.
A lot of
You'll
people are
have to bleep out my
complaining
F word.
about like the lore aspect of how they're sort of playing it hot and wild, but like a lot of people, like, you could blame Amazon as much as you could blame like the Tolkien estate where they didn't give them the proper rights, because like Amazon clearly wanted to make a very good show. They want to make something faithful and very good, but they didn't have the proper rights because the Tolkien estate refused to give it to them.
I would say that I would agree that that is a huge problem with this whole thing. Like I've been a huge person that hates rights in a way. Like I get not rights in that sense, but like the rights to things. Because like I love
You
the
hate
idea.
rights?
Yeah, right. It sounds bad when I say that. I love the idea of anyone being able to take a character and do something with it, if that makes sense. Like, because I feel like it's a stagnation. Like Godzilla is my big thing, where it's like I would love it if any company could make a Godzilla film and just interpret it how they want to do it.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
like the 1999 Godzilla film.
I'm in. I don't even care. Honestly, guilty pleasure movie. I love it. I think Roland
Yeah,
Emmerich,
that's-
anything that guy makes, I'm like, fuck it, I'll watch.
I believe in the Godzilla fandom, they affectionately refer to that as Zilla.
As
Zilla, because they took out the god of it.
Yeah. But
Yeah, I kind of like partially agree with this statement because, like, on the one hand, I do actually agree that Amazon could have made a better show if they did have proper rights to the actual lore. On the other hand, I think that the Tolkien estate is right to withhold giving that information out because I do not think that Amazon had good intentions going into this show. And the marketing for the show, I think, speaks to that.
In what way?
But yeah, in what capacity?
So I'll give you a quote. So this is gonna here comes the spice. Go ahead and grab your Tony Chachery because here we go.
How long have we been
So,
streaming this so
something-
far? Okay, we're past
18
About 20 minutes.
we're past a certain
So-
point. I think we're good.
I'm going to read you two quotes, and you guys have probably heard it if you've been following the controversy around this show. But
Really,
the first
honestly,
quote-
like I kind of like
Okay.
popped out at the beginning, but
so the first quote. This is we made a promise to ourselves at the beginning of the process that we weren't going to put any of our own politics, our own messages, or our own themes into these movies. In a way, we were trying to make these films for him, Tolkien, not for ourselves. Quote Peter Jackson. Right.
Mhm.
Second quote. It felt only natural to us that an adaptation of Tolkien's work would reflect the world what the world actually looks like. The showrunners of Rings of Power. So, aside from two very different philosophies going into this, it is very, very apparent to me that the intention with this show from the get-go was to add their own political beliefs into the show and stir the pot that way. And
I don't
I
fully
don't
agree with that. I don't think that's what they were fully intending, because while like I think the idea behind it is that they're trying to make the world reflect what it is right now, which is full of people of color, full of everything, full of people of every different ethnicity, gender, identity, everything. And I think that's just a natural thing to add to something like this, where it can be implied without. I never got a feeling that they were trying to push an agenda or an idea on anyone.
see, if you go back and you watch all of the marketing press for this show, not just the trailers, but like all of the events and the expos that they did and where they interviewed the actors, that's all it is. It's constantly that. It is constantly
but when you say it's
them
constantly
saying,
that,
"Hey, we
like,
have
what
people."
is that? Yeah, okay.
But like,
So it was in almost all of the promotional material. Like, oh, I'm playing the first female dwarf of color, and aside from the ridiculousness of that line, because dwarves aren't real, that quote in particular I have seen on at least 5 different interviews, And it's like Amazon wrote that down, gave it to the actress, who, by the way, is wonderful in the show. She's one of the best characters in the show. Disa's phenomenal. But it screams that they had an agenda from the get-go, and that this is what we believe, and our agenda for the show outweighs the writing of the show.
I mean, that may be true on the like with the actors and the out of the actual show, but in the show, I don't see them actually ever doing that. Like
in the
I
show
never
itself,
watched
no.
any of the interviews or anything, but in the show, I never got a feeling like, oh, they're trying to push, like they're trying to make me understand something
No.
about this.
Yeah,
for
but
no
so like
reason.
I think I get what AJ's trying to say though, Richard. Is like, is it a problem necessarily if like in the promotional stuff, sure, like in the interviews, she's talking about it because maybe it actually excites her. I get that probably it's like a thing that Amazon is pushing on her or something like that, but still, it's like a talking
Oh, it
point.
is. Absolutely, it is.
Does it really matter if while watching the end product, it doesn't really?
Yes, it does.
I don't
And
know.
from a lore and storytelling perspective, it matters. And like I understand this is a contentious subject and that people are split down the board on this. But if you build a fantasy world and you say this race of people looks this way, and then someone else says no, they have to look this way, then you're altering the lore in what I believe comes to a point of absurdity. So
when did they do that in this show? When did they change how like?
So to just address the elephant in the room, the elves. Elves are outright described in Tolkien over and over and over as being
fair
white.
folk.
No,
They're not
incorrect.
fair of skin. They never said fair of skin. They said fair folk.
Would you like quotes? Because I can provide them.
When they do this though, just as a question, because again, I don't read Lord of the Rings, and I'm not even like huge into the lore. When they do these quotes, are they just referring to people around them, or are they broad spectrum saying elves?
So here's a quote. This is straight up from the Lord of the Rings. They were a race high and beautiful, the older children of the world. And among them the Eldar were as kings, who now are gone, the people of the great journey, the people of the stars. They were tall, fair of skin, and gray-eyed, though their locks were dark, save the golden house of Finrod, and their voices had more melodies than any mortal voice that is now heard. That is only one of many explanations of the elves in Lord of the Rings.
Hold on. If that's the case, then there's another quote where they say that Harfoots are dark of skin specifically.
Harfoots are fine.
But we have white Harfoots. Why is that an issue that they're changing the lore about the Harfoots, but
so
not
to begin
about
with, the
not about
Harfoots
the
are
elves?
also inaccurately represented. The Harfoots aren't like proto-hobbits. They're just hobbits. And I also have just as much of a problem of there being white Harfoots as I do of there being black elves, because it doesn't work in the world as it was written. And that's not to say that I have an issue with people of color.
Let me pose
anything.
a question to
No,
you.
yeah, absolutely. Don't worry about that.
Does the skin color change the story at all? Does it change the story of the elves?
It changes the lore about the elves and how
Forget
they are
about the
portrayed.
lore
Yes.
right now. Forget about the lore.
No,
but does it change
you cannot
the story?
forget about the lore. That is not.
You can hear, because it doesn't bother me that the lore is being changed. But does the story itself rely on the elves being white?
No, of course not. But that's a preposterous question.
Exactly. If Black Panther relies on the character being black, Mulan relies on the character being Chinese. This does not rely on the character being black or white. It doesn't rely on any skin color. It could be changed because it doesn't matter.
It does. It matters because it is something that is written out and described to be this way, because that is the elven culture. They are based entirely on Nordic and Celtic peoples that have actually existed. And there are people of color that exist in Middle-earth that the show just disregards, pretends they don't exist. So it matters because when you let's use Game of Thrones as a reference, right? Game of Thrones represents people of color in a way that I think is sensible and more accurate to a world that they're trying to build. So let's look at like the Dothraki. The Dothraki all look a very specific way. The people of Essos all look a very specific way. The people of Dorne all look a very specific way. The people, the First Men are all pale white dudes with dark hair. The Targaryens all look a specific way. They look in specific ways because that is how it's written and that is how
the
culture is meant
Valerians
to be
are
shared.
described in the book as being whites.
Yeah, no, I actually
But
this is
but the Valerians are black in the show, and they're from the same place that Targaryens are from.
Can
right,
I?
and I think it actually works out in a very good way in Game of Thrones because the writing is competent.
I
But
will. I will
in this
just
show,
throw
it's
in
not.
there though that like my difference with that, and this is almost the thing I was saying with The Witcher 3 recently, where it's like it's more those shows I find to be more grounded. So like they have these actual kind of things, but like when I watch Rings of Power and I watch like Lord of the Rings, I don't really. It's very high fantasy. It's very crazy, and I don't really need it to all. I don't know, like
Makes sense.
not that makes sense necessarily, but yeah, like I don't really need to have. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying necessarily. But
I
feel like
don't. The idea is, I think like for me, I don't need there to be a specific reason why one person's black or white. I don't need like a whole race of elves that are specifically black just to make this one black elf make sense. You know what I'm saying?
like would it have helped Richard, like, because Kaz was saying this beforehand, like imagine if in the first episode we got like in a little bit of
Disclaimer.
a world tour of Middle Earth, and we got to see a bunch of different cultures of groups of like this, where it's like black dwarves or like a black elf culture, like that kind of thing from.
Yes, but also no. So yes, I think that would have helped like kind of explain why they look this way. But I also think that that still shits on the actual established lore. What I think would have actually made this show much easier to tolerate for people who are huge fans of Tolkien in a literal sense is if they just put up a disclaimer at the beginning of the show, like an all black screen with white text that says, "Hey, this is our interpretation of Tolkien's famously difficult to interpret writing. Take it as it is, but know that we are doing our best to portray this world in a way that seems proper for us." If they simply did that, I would have probably enjoyed this show much more.
I
But
feel
what I
like
think
that
they
would-
did
I-
is
I
the
feel like
exact
having
opposite.
having a disclaimer at the beginning is unnecessary.
Yeah,
Like,
like-
why can't you go into something and enjoy it for what it is instead of needing an explanation for something that it isn't?
Because what it is a mockery of Tolkien.
I
In
just,
every
I don't
capa-
think
and,
so. Well,
and
this
like,
is
let's
this is
let's be
also
clear.
about
the-
a story that was written 100 years ago by a white guy that if he did put a black person in his story in that time, he would have gotten a lot of flack and hatred for it.
It's not true. There are people of color that exist in Middle Earth. That is outright not true. So, to be clear, I don't really, the people of color thing doesn't really concern me all that much. It is just
Then
a
why
talking
bring it up?
point because it is a talking point that I think was a huge part of the marketing of this show. And I find the marketing of this show to have been despicable. And the overall approach to how they dealt with this show is what I've heard referred to, and I use this term myself, as fan baiting. They are trying to take actual fans of this material and piss them off. They want to piss them off. She-Hulk did the same thing. They want to piss off people who are interested in this stuff in whatever way that they can, because that is free marketing for them.
well, I think that with She-Hulk, it was more like baiting the people who already are negative on the shows. Like I think that was very pointed. I don't get that
She-Hulk-
at all from Rings of Power, to be honest. so.
She-Hulk and Rings of Power are like, because I am a fan of Lord of the Rings, Tolkien, The Hobbit, Silmarillion, all that stuff. Is great, but I don't see a problem with how they're presenting it in this show.
And then like the other thing is too, like, because marketing, like, okay, like aside from interviews and stuff like that, me and AJ, we didn't watch a whole lot of trailers. We just watched like the one trailer before we did this, and I don't know, man. Like, there's just not a thing in it that really pushes stuff. You know, like an agenda of any sort. Like, there's no like blurbs, like in, like for example, with Captain Marvel when it was like. When it was like hero, but it did the her thing. Like there was nothing
Yeah.
like that in the trailer. You know what I mean?
No,
Yeah,
there's
like-
nothing that is like egregious like that. But the writing of the show itself is pretty apparent that that's what they're doing.
I
I
don't
don't
see
know.
that
See,
either.
like my
and
problem with the
claiming
writing
that,
was not that kind of aspect at all. It
So-
was Yeah.
The outright rewriting of Galadriel's character is incredibly evident of that. Galadriel is not the character she's portrayed as in this show, like in any capacity.
explain.
So Galadriel in the books is described, in any material, is described as being like this essence of femininity, and I'm using femininity in the way that it was used when this was written. She is described as being incredibly political. She is known for talking and being smart and being powerful in her words. She is never described as being any kind of warrior. She
Well,
was
this is
never
also-
in any kind of war. This
This
is
is also
also
depicted of the second age, which is Galadriel
Made
is
up.
thousands
Made
of years
up.
old.
yeah, and
Like,
that's what I'm saying.
If she doesn't go through a few personality or life changes in that time, then what the fuck is she doing with her life?
Well, she could have absolutely have done that and still have adhered to her actual character. The
I
problem,
mean,
the problem with an argument
I
like
think
that,
she did because she
has
still
that-
embodies beauty. Like she is.
She's
still...
she's very beautiful. She's very powerful. She's very political in every aspect.
She like literally
Just because she
captivates.
wears
She captivates everyone around her the first time they see her. Like, and later on in the show when she shows up to
right,
war, even
because
like
she's a Mary Sue.
just because she wears
ah,
armor.
there it is. There's the...
Yeah. Galadriel
Ah.
captivates everyone around her because she's the main character, Mary Sue, and can do no wrong and does no wrong.
I think
But
that like,
you
if we're
yourself
shown
say
the
that
whole,
Galadriel isn't.
the whole show that she's
That's-
flawed. I think that the whole show shows that.
I have not seen any moment where Galadriel has been
Halbrand
brought
literally is
down
telling her that
by
she's
her.
stupid in a cell, like in one episode, and that she needs to approach things differently. But I think that was a moment where like she was
right before she breaks out of that cell and shoves 5 fully armored guards back into that cell while unarmed and wearing a dress. Mary Sue.
If you live to be 10,000 years old and don't learn how to do that, then you wasted your time.
I don't because like
If you
that's the
live to
thing
be
though. 'Cause, like,
10,000
what the
years
fuck,
old
like,
and
Legolas?
still have the temperament of an angsty 23-year-old,
But that's how elves kind of are. I don't know, like
that is not how elves are.
Like,
in any
Legolas does-
capacity.
I mean,
Crazy
Legolas
shit.
is pretty fucking.
Legolas is crazy shit in the fucking original trilogy. That like I get like it's crazy. I accept it. I accept that she could push a few guards into a cell. I don't know. Like,
Legolas
That-
and Gimli literally had a petty childhood or childish like competition to
It's-
see who
in
could
yeah,
the
kill the
middle
most.
of a pivotal battle.
Like
that-
if like
I don't
saying,
view that
saying it's one
competition
thing,
as petty.
it's wrong for a girl to do that, but it's all right for Legolas to do that because he's a manly man.
Whoa!
it's-
First things first. That is not what I said. So let's not mince my words. Into
I'm
something
I'm
that
just
not
saying, like calling her a Mary Sue because she could fight off 5 guys at once and throw them into a cell, but then Legolas fights, he kills 40 orcs in a battle while counting
Which we
them
see.
for Gimli.
while
which
while,
we see.
while
Suddenly it's
sliding
different.
down on a shield on a skateboard.
Right, and that scene's goofy. I'm not saying that the original movies are flawless, but we see Legolas do these things. They show it to us. Galadriel pushes 5 dudes in a cell off screen because the writers know it's an unbelievable act. It's
well,
goofy. It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, it's not unbelievable because she did fight off like 3 people at once in another shot.
if you can tell me with sincerity that Galadriel teaching the race of warrior men, the Númenóreans, that the proper way to kill an orc is to stab, if you
That's-
can tell me that that's good writing, I will eat a shoe.
See, like that's the thing, and I think that that's a good point on that. Where with you knowing the lore and me having no idea, like I just kind of took the Númenóreans as a bunch of almost as what the Rhaenys is saying in House of the Dragon, where it's a bunch of soldiers who have never actually tasted war, but are just like pushed up as warriors. But yeah, like with what you take into the show, you have a bunch of like baggage of like what you think it's going to be in a sense. And I wish it was what you said in hindsight, but yeah. But
Right. The Númenóreans are written as basically being like Spartans, like 7-foot tall, like half-elven Spartans. They are the best of the best. Having Galadriel teach them anything, much less teaching them a lesson as stupid as stab. You're telling she literally says, there are many ways to kill an orc, but I will only teach you one. Stab. Twist. Like fucking duh. Everything is gonna die if you do that.
There's moments in the show where like some of the writing isn't up to par, but that's like 1% of the entirety of it is what I would say is like really weird writing.
I would say that this show had a lot of what you were saying about the opening of House of the Dragon too, for me, where a lot of the show is just like going back and forth on something where it's like, holy fuck, like, is this gonna go anywhere? That's what I felt with Elrond and Durin. Like, while I liked them together,
I agree with that. Yeah.
I
With
liked them
Elrond,
together.
Durin,
Like
yeah.
their dynamic was really fun. I just was like, this plotline is like really doing nothing every time.
I
we go
can
back
I
to
can
it.
agree with
Right.
that. Like in terms of the plot lines, I feel like Elrond and Durin, while like eventually does lead to something,
Yeah.
it has been a bit of a time where they're just going back and forth about like, oh, you didn't visit me, you didn't see the birth of my children, and blah blah blah
And
stuff
then
like
coming
that.
back and then being like, oh, now we have another problem where it feels like I can't do anything, and yeah, it just
Yeah.
felt weird.
Absolutely
I can totally
ridiculous.
agree with that.
Colombian Brujo in chat said, saying it better than me. I don't care about the race of a character. I care about abusing a fan base, faking representation. Hire an actor for their skill, not their race.
But I think that in that
100%
sense that
agree
like
with that.
everyone in the show is skilled. Like I don't think that that's like
I think like I don't think there's been a weak actor in this show.
I don't know, man.
Galadriel, the only problem I would say with Galadriel is she is displayed as emotionless, I think on purpose, but when she talks, like she talks with her mouth closed a lot.
I don't think that the
noticed.
actress playing Galadriel can act well, and I don't think that the gentleman playing Arondir can act very well either.
Arondir. Which one's that one again?
The Black Elf.
Yeah.
Oh, really? I thought he was fine. Like I think he embodied like
his,
kind of
his
distant
acting
elf.
is just be stoic.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's
And he does that
that's it.
fucking well.
Elves.
guess.
I in general with Lord of the Rings never been a fan of elves in this universe, but like because they always kind of have that vibe to me where they're distant. They're just not really there with you at all times. Like I don't know. I found him to be fine. I didn't like
Right.
fucking Bronwyn. That's who I didn't fucking like.
A problem with the elves, like I could agree with a lot of the fan base is saying that they have short hair, and I agree with that because I've seen a lot of fan edits where like they edit their hair to be long. I'm like, that looks graceful
Way
and beautiful, exactly what an elf should look like. Because like I think like the three like the main things an elf should be graceful, elegant, and beautiful. And
Right.
I think all the elves in this portray
They
that
look like
perfectly.
humans.
I think three things they don't need to have: white. That's pretty much it. I just
So
like,
to be clear on the race thing, I do want to point out that when it comes to Disa's character, I don't mind that at all. Like the idea of there being black dwarves, okay, they're made of fucking rock. There's black rocks. I don't care about that. It's the
Mhm.
elves in particular who were outright described as looking a specific way that when that's disregarded, it's like, okay, if we don't care about the lore that we're basing our story upon, then we're not actually telling this story.
Richard,
It's important to point out that the elves are not human. They
Yeah.
do not need to represent the actual people of our world.
Again,
because
yes.
they are not people of our world.
I just-
they
The
aren't
elves
human
were also
beings.
created by a god. Why couldn't the god think this one would look cool in a
It's
different
just
skin
profound
color?
to me in
Because they
another sense,
didn't.
though, Richard. Because like adaptations have always done this, and I'm just used to it. I feel at this point where it's like
just-
I am a really big fan of the Percy Jackson, the Olympian series. And back in the day, they did a bunch of race changes. They did hair color changes that I was like, that's annoying, but okay, like I'm dealing with it. And that was like 15 years ago. So I mean, like,
I just think it's something that if you could look past it, which I do like immediately, like it's not even a thought in my mind, then it becomes a much better show.
well,
If
plus a
it's-
lot of
if-
these aren't really established characters that have a thing already, right?
Yeah.
So for me personally, I can and do look past it. And it's really not a big deal that they're not all white. If the elves were written as all being black in the lore, I would be equally pissed that there are now white people playing them. It's just disregarding the lore to put inclusion on your list of what this show represents so that you can get that sweet diversity money. That's the only reason that they did it this way. That's
Then
that
what-
is my
find that to
biggest
be, like,
hang up on
I don't
it.
know,
Also,
like that's
like,
such a
hold
bold
on.
claim to say that, though. I feel.
But what's wrong with that? Like, what's wrong with adding diversity to a show? What's like, why is that content? Like, what's wrong
Nothing.
with
Adding
changing
The
the
diversity
only
color?
reason
show
that
is
it's
fine.
contentious is because the companies see it as just that by adding
Yeah, but
them
like,
to the thing.
sure, like, a good idea. We could knock out 2 stones. We could add diversity, and we get a little bit extra money.
Well,
from
I
it.
do think that there is a
I don't
problem with
see-
doing it in a checklist kind of style. Like that is kind of weird.
Right.
Like you got to admit, like that's kind of
It's
gross.
gross.
It's gross. Yeah, it's where it's like, oh, we got to put a gay person, we got to put a black person, we got to put an Asian, and it's like, should
it's
that
slimy
be like
and
a
it doesn't
thing that
it doesn't serve.
But like, I don't think this did that really. Like,
I don't think it did either, personally. Like, I don't think I got that vibe from it.
there are definitely shows where it's like you could definitely tell that this character was added to be gay just because they need a
Yeah.
gay person, or this person is added as the token black person because they need the token black
Like,
person.
okay, like now, not to be like really pushy on that front, but like, was there a gay person in the show? Did I miss something, or was there one?
Probably,
Uh,
probably,
Rings of Power?
probably a gay
in Rings
person.
of
that
Power,
they
yeah,
haven't
in Rings of Power. Like, did
probably
was
one they
there
haven't like announced yet or anything.
I'm sure they'll put one
Sauron
in
is gonna
eventually.
come in and be like, "Yeah, I like this guy."
I'm bi.
Sauron and Adar are gonna have a gay relationship.
Jesus, fucking Adar,
Yeah.
man.
The only reason that I care about it is because it's done so tactlessly, and it is just so obvious to me that this is just a marketing ploy and nothing else. Because here's a spoiler for you: Amazon does not care about black people or people of color in general or gay people or anything.
No,
Amazon
I would say
cares about money.
No companies really do in that sense. Like when Pride Month
No,
comes
they do
around
not.
and like it all is like rainbows and happiness, it's like, yeah, you guys are
It
doing
is
this
marketing.
just for, yeah, exactly. It's just the marketing thing. I agree.
And that's exactly what it is in this show, and
I
that's
don't agree
that's
on that
why
part.
I find it so gross. But that being said, the race thing is probably the absolute least
basing the
of my
entire
concerns
show
with this
on
show.
basing the entire show on the parent company. Like this is Amazon has a different company making this show, don't they?
Do they?
Jeffrey Bezos is directly responsible for this show. He sent a letter out to the writers of this show saying, "Don't fuck this up."
And
Like,
and
Amazon is involved.
And then if Jeff Bezos agrees with having the people in this, then how is that any different? You know, how is that any worse? If he really didn't care about having people of color, then he would have sent it back to them, and be like, take this person out.
So again, I don't particularly care that there are people of color represented in any particular capacity in this show. That's never been my problem. My problem is changing the lore, A, and B, claiming that you're doing this for the sake of diversity when you're not. You're doing it for the sake of money. That's my opinion on that. Now, with that said, I have the same problems with if the races are, if there's white people being represented when they should be black. I have the same problem with that as I do with a race of what is supposed to be white people being represented as black. If they're written to be a certain way, just leave them that way. If we have a world where you have this group over here and they're all white, and this group over here and they're all black, they have their cultures, and these cultures can mingle in that way. But if we just have everybody is everything, then culture is now meaningless.
Yeah.
What you got?
I mean, again, for my personal thing, I think I'm still standing with the whole grounded versus like high fantasy aspects of it, where like I just can get past it with Rings of Power, and like it doesn't.
I can too.
Me too. Like,
I can too, and I did. It was the least of my concerns.
Richard, I respect you, and you're a great guy. I don't agree with the idea of that you're spouting about the different colors.
That's okay, because I don't agree with your opinion. This show's worth its salt. So, because at the end of the day, I don't really care about the race thing that much. It's just a talking point. What I care more about is the awful writing of this show. It's paced at a snail's pace. Now, I'll give you some positives, right? I'm not all negative about this show. So some positives. I think the orcs look better in this show than they ever have. The orcs look amazing.
They look really good in this.
I think they look good, but I personally am such a sucker for like the orcs and the.
I'm personally a sucker for the animated movie that they did.
I fucking want to throw up whenever I fucking see the Hobbit orcs, because oh my god, I hated that.
Yeah.
I don't like. Yeah, really the Hobbit orcs look bad.
Weirdly.
Yeah, they do. They look like they're made of Play-Doh or something.
Yeah.
I think the orcs look amazing in this show, and I think that the cities look really good. Like Numenor looks fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So do all of the elven cities. Like when there's like landscapes and stuff, they nail.
Well, I would
costumes
say, like,
are hit or
in
miss.
general. Oh, really? What
Yes.
costumes did you
So
like? What, give me some immediate ones you were like, no.
Okay, so I'll stick with positives first because I want to be 100% negative on this show. But some positives. Landscapes look great. Everything dwarven looks incredible.
Yeah.
I loved it.
I love the dwarven armor. I love their outfits. I love that they tuck their beards into their belt. They got some lore right for once.
Honestly, if they did like a full show on the dwarves, that would be.
I'd
cool.
watch the shit out of it. I love how the dwarves are portrayed, with one minor hiccup, and that's that there is only one Durin. There cannot be more than one Durin that's written into the dwarf lore, but that's neither here nor there. What I don't like, costume wise, all of the armor in this show looks like it's made of plastic. Like it looks like it was purchased at Party City.
I was saying that with House of the Dragon and that fucking was that the first episode where they were doing
in the first episode, yeah.
Yeah, like anytime they do a helmet, I'm like, dude, that looks fucking like you got that out of Party City.
I will agree, because like the tree bark armor that they're wearing, like Arndir's wearing, looks like it's made of like foam. Like,
Yeah, it looks like you bought it at Party City.
yeah, exactly.
So I have a
Even
slight
Galadriel's
explanation
metal
for the
armor. I don't
House of
know.
the Dragon one. So House of the Dragon, the first episode did look like plastic armor, whereas the rest of the show I don't think has that problem.
No one's been really
And I think
helmeted
that-
though.
I think that the primary
like,
reason for that is that they destroyed that armor in the first episode.
yeah.
So I think that the reason it looks so bad,
about that.
they were in a tourney and like people are getting smashed to bits.
Okay. But I don't think
Like
that,
a
I
perfect
think his
example,
armor
Ray
was
Nice's
fucked.
armor in the last episode
Really good.
looked beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked great. And I think the Kingsguard, they look great too, even
Yep.
with their helmets. Like
Mhm.
Crispin's helmet looks a little too big for his
Their
tiny
shoulder
little head.
pads to me look plastic. That's the thing with the Kingsguard armor right now. Their shoulder pads look a little weird. Like they look.
I have such mixed opinions on the armor in Rings of Power though, because like the Elven armor, like Galadriel's armor, I think looks incredibly fake, but I love the way that it's layered.
Yeah.
Like from a conceptual standpoint, it looks fantastic. She's actually wearing a gorget, which you don't ever see. So I love that she's wearing what is I would call practical, realistic looking armor. It just doesn't look good. And the Numenorians have it the worst. Their armor looks like they 3D printed that bitch right before they filmed it.
I would agree. I remember watching their like the scenes on Numenor and looking at the armor and being like, meh. Doesn't really like do anything for me really.
It's real bad looking. You can't. I think just from a creation standpoint, you guys know this. I make armor.
Yeah.
Awesome. When you're
Check it out.
when you're creating armor, if it's made out of fantasy or sci-fi materials, that's one thing. But it still has to look like it's made of a believable substance. And all of the armor in this show does not. The metal armor doesn't look metal. The leather armor doesn't look leather. It all looks plastic or rubber. None of it looks believable, even if it looks practical. And that's frustrating.
Is it the Elven like Arndir's armor supposed to look like it's made of a tree, or like is it made?
I think it's supposed to be wood.
I thought it was supposed to look like a
looks
leaf
like
or something like that. Like
because it looks like it. It looks like it's supposed to be made of wood, but it straight up looks like it's like plastic carved
paper
into the
mache.
shape of a wood. Yeah, like.
Back to Arondir, by the way. I do want to say that he's actually my favorite character in the show. I don't think his acting is bad. I think that the directing is bad. They don't give him enough to do.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of ask, like, what was everyone's like favorite plot line, like favorite character plot line in general, I guess. But like, what story?
I don't have one of those.
I guess you just said as yours would be. I think Arondir, right? But
Arondir is my favorite character in the show because I think he's, despite being a person of color, is 100% the best elf in the show and the most representative of what elves are supposed to be like.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think Arondir, like his whole like when they were like in the orc pits and everything.
Yeah,
I think
fantastic.
That was like one of my favorite moments, really.
Other than the dumb fights.
Can I
hate
point
the dumb
out something?
fights.
The fights were cool. I was fine with it. But the worst thing I saw, and I was again shocked by the budget of the show. What the fuck was that? What do they call it in the warg? Like the
proto warg.
Holy
thing.
shit! That was
like
out of
hyena.
that was
Like
out
a-
of fucking
like an-
Marvel CGI.
Looked like an enlarged chihuahua.
It looked and I'm not even
that
like
was
because it
bad.
looked out of the Hobbit. That's my problem. It was like, oh god, like that looked bad. Oh shit!
Like his eyes are fucking bulging. He's like, the
So,
entire
yeah, I don't understand why they feel the need to like give Galadriel and Arondir these like crouching tiger, hidden dragon wire fights. They look so bad to me. They take me right out of it because it's so obviously on a wire.
Because that's what they do.
Like,
I don't know.
That's what elves are, man.
Yeah.
Like elves are always described as being like super light and flighty.
Yeah, it got me there. Fucking Legolas with the shield.
When
on
he
the stairs,
when
I
he
get
jumped
it.
on like the chain and like jumped towards him, I was like, that is dope as fuck.
And,
I just
and
wish
like
it
there's
looked
even
better.
in like the books where like Legolas walks on top of like loose snow, even though everyone's trudging through it.
Oh, that was actually that's a cool
it's
thing.
silly. I just think that it could have been filmed a little bit better. It's just so obviously on a wire, I guess.
Yeah,
And I guess I'm grateful that it wasn't CG, but I just wish they would have done it a little bit better. Like I think that Galadriel's kickflip 360 no scope decapitated troll scene was dumb as shit, but it looked better than Arondir's like weird backflip, spin around, jump 30 feet.
yeah.
That shit is so long ago that I barely remember that. Like I remember people complaining about that whole situation. I'm like, god damn, like this is a nothing
It just looks
situation.
weird.
Not the looks of it. I agree, probably look kind of meh. But people were like getting on the whole like narrative already. Like, and I'm like, that's like the first like 5 minutes. Like, chill.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of writing in this show that is just it's inconsistent, and that is one of my biggest problems. So, just for example, the orcs, right? What's his name? Adar,
Adar, yeah.
who's a stupid self-insert character that doesn't actually apply to anything.
In season 2, what I thought he was gonna die in this fucking season because what the fuck?
He doesn't. He has no business being in this show. But Adar, when he shows that orc and he's like, "Show your skin in the sun," the orc's like instantly like frying. That doesn't happen to them like at any other point in the show. Like the orcs are shown in the sunlight multiple times, and they don't start melting immediately. So like there's an inconsistency there. There's an inconsistency with like the orcs are building this massive trench that they pan out at one point in the episode where Arondir is fighting the hyenas. They pan out and they show that like this trench is like thousands of miles and it's huge. They dug up entire forests. And you mean to tell me nobody noticed this? Nobody? Not the elves that are in watchtowers looking for this?
Well, that's the thing though. Like I from what I gathered, it felt like this was like a very like not like they don't go out. I guess he does because he's going to see Bronwyn and shit. I don't know. That's a good point. Fuck.
It doesn't make any sense. Like, how did nobody see this? And why are they even doing it?
Well,
it's for the water to get to the mountain.
it's now we know what
God.
it is.
Yeah,
Hey, I'll tell you what
God,
right now. The only thing that was
stupid.
the only thing I didn't like about that was the name thing. I didn't need that to come up because I already knew what the fuck it was. I don't think anyone needed that. But I thought it was
you're
cool
talking
as
about, like,
fuck.
You're talking about bad, inconsistent writing. Like, I will agree with you that the fucking pyroclastic flow moment
It's
Oh
dumb.
my God.
is dumb. It was really
It's
dumb.
dumb. They should have done a way better job at showing how people were going to survive that because like
They could have done so much to like this show, like I don't know, like maybe fucking Galadriel didn't actually make it in time and just saw everyone get wiped out by pyroclastic flow, you know?
Right. That would have been much better.
It-
To see,
it was-
I did not watch the last episode. I should put a preface out there because I cannot be.
you should
bothered.
have.
I'm not going to.
It was
continue-
good. It was a good
It was
episode.
actually like an episode where I was like, that was good.
If you have to dig through a mountain of shit to get to a diamond, that diamond can fuck off. I'm not going to
Well,
dig
if there's
through
like
the
other
shit anymore.
pretty good diamonds on the way.
There were a couple
haven't
good. There were a
been-
couple good diamonds in that piece of shit beforehand.
I did watch the cliff notes on the episode, though. I do have a general idea of what's happening, and I am blown away by just how outright stupid everybody in this show is. Like it was obvious to me from the very first episode that Halbrand or whatever is Sauron.
Fuck me, man. Really?
Well,
Fuck
because
you.
that was a lot of theories. A lot of people thought it could have been Halbrand, it could have been the Stranger, it could have been like a couple other people. Like there's a lot of theories about who it could have been, and a lot of people were thinking it was probably Halbrand.
I
I wasn't
think it
keeping
was
up with
crazy
anything.
obvious.
I didn't. Well, and fucking watching all these videos like where it shows things he said in hindsight. I'm like, well, fuck, that was pretty goddamn obvious, I guess. But
Yeah, I don't think like as watching it, I don't think it was like super obvious. I mean, you could definitely like decipher it, but I think to like the primary audience, I think it was it was more of a mystery.
well, because okay, not
Yeah.
just like here's the thing that happens in the last episode, Richard. I'll tell you. They go to fucking the three evil women go to goddamn Gandalf and are like, "Yo, you're Sauron." And at first I was like, "Okay, maybe that's the case." And
I was
is
like, hey, that fucking fixes everything about like the people's complaint about the wizards.
yeah, like there
Yeah,
you go.
he's
But
just a wizard, which, by the way, did not exist until the Third Age.
I know,
don't
but
give
he
a
could have been.
Down
He
from
could
the
have.
years.
I don't-
been a blue wizard because they did exist in that time.
if that's I don't
They
honestly.
did not fall from the sky. They got there on boats, and they got there in the Third Age.
I don't
with the
give
exception
a
of the
I-
blue.
shit.
Changing
is
it
cool.
to them falling out of the sky like a meteor is cooler.
Here's my
than
only
them
thing.
just arriving on
Here's
a
my
boat.
only thing. I think that this is a weird moment where it's like, well, this is probably not Gandalf, I guess, because it's probably gonna be Saruman or something, isn't it? Because like,
No, this one is actually Gandalf.
well, what the fuck?
100%
How is
Gandalf.
it has to be because of how he acts for sure. But I just mean like, are there other ones around him? Like,
Probably, yeah.
okay, because Saruman, I would imagine, like, because if Gandalf was
'Cause, like,
here first and Saruman
What
managed to get
I'm
better like that-
gathering is that they're taking the end of the second age and the beginning of the third age and like mashing it sort of into one time. Because like if they didn't if they did actually have like the proper time frame, humans would be useless. They would die every episode, just of sheer old age.
So something I saw in the cliff notes here was that Halbrand, who, by the way, I have never called Halbrand until today. I have been calling him Sauron since I started watching the show.
fucking Christ.
But Halbrand, they think he's the lost king of the Southern people.
Yep.
But they show that the Southern line of kings ended like
1,000 years
generations ago, and no one knew this or questioned it.
I think that's also because like they even said that like the elves are sort of closed in their own space. They don't really give a shit about humans.
Even the people, the Southern people, when he's like, when they introduce him as like, he's the lost king of the Southern
mean-
people, they're all like, okay,
To be fair, that also happened with Aragorn.
No,
He just said, "I'm a descendant of Isildur, and I'm your new king." They're like, "All right, we haven't had a king for thousands of years, but all right."
fuck it. Yeah, no, you're right. That's fair. I just took it as like, why does nobody remember that there hasn't been a king of these people for 1,000 years? They were literally in one episode. They were literally in the biggest library, like the Library of Alexandria in this world.
Yeah, pretty
They
much.
were in there, and at no point did they question this man. It's just
Yeah.
it's goofy. Like when he's mortally wounded, and he's like, "All right, I'm gonna ride 6 days to go get help."
No, but
No one's like, "How are you doing that?" No one's like, how are you even able to walk? You're literally dying, and you're gonna ride yourself on horseback 6 days to get help?
Well, no, but like that was kind of like the whole ride with haste moment thing, where it's like we got to get to this fucking place as fast as possible for this elven healing. So
My
it's
guy,
like, we're
if
gonna
you're mortally wounded,
yeah, but
you ain't riding nowhere.
I get it, but he might have died on the way, but it was their best bet. I think that was the game plan there.
It was either it's either he stays there and absolutely dies, or they travel 6 days and maybe get help.
And like ride like a motherfucker on horses.
So,
and these are also Numenorian horses; they could travel for days on end.
Well, what I mean though is aside from the fact that obviously no real person's going to instantly die on a 6-day travel with a mortal wound on a horse, how did no one question? Like, how are you able to deal with this mortal wound in such a way?
Halbrand's just built different, bro.
He's Sauron, man.
I don't know what to fucking tell you, man.
But like, just more lore inconsistencies, right? The Harfoots literally sing a song where they're like, "We keep everybody together. Nobody gets left behind."
Don't even.
And they consistently prove that they will leave fucking anybody behind.
I like the Harfoots. The Harfoots are really fun.
Honestly, okay,
I think
I take it back. I don't know if I said my favorite plotline. That fucking plotline was literally my favorite. I think I only gave a shit about that.
I love the Harfoots. I do agree. Yes, I understand. Like, because that also like irked me. Where like, oh, you have a broken ankle, you're gonna get left behind, even though we don't leave everyone behind.
They're just like, instantly like, screw you, dude. We're out of here.
They're pretty much, because I think the idea is like, since they're so small that if they stop to like wait for them, they're all gonna die.
Why sing the song?
Why sing the song? But I really like the Harfoots. They were really fun.
The Harfoots were absolutely, in hindsight, looking back on it, my favorite part of the show.
If I had to pick a favorite, I'd probably say the Harfoots, just because they're more fun and they're a little bit more disconnected from the overall story of Lord of the Rings that this show is butchering. But I do think the show does visually look really well, with the exception of some bad CGI. I feel like they blew their whole CGI budget on like on landscapes.
Yeah,
not on like not on creatures.
I think the fucking warg really shows that.
Wait, can I jump to a point that I actually fucking hated?
Yeah.
So okay, in the episode where Adar is riding off with the sword thing, right, to like do this whole shebang.
Yeah.
Nobody fucking checks if it's the
Nobody
goddamn.
checks it's the hatchet.
Oh my god! Like that was a thing that pissed me off, dude. Like,
I just think that's part of the like. No matter how much money you have, like people are gonna just take out like weird, shitty turnarounds.
Like that is a writing thing where I'm like, come on, nobody fucking looked.
That has absolutely happened in like really good shows before. That people are like, what the fuck? Like, why did no one check if this thing was actually the thing that they're looking for?
Yeah. I feel like this show taught me more about volcanoes than school ever did. Like, I did so much research on how volcanoes work to figure out like if this is even feasible, and it's not.
my worst part of this show, again, I'm gonna preface, I love this show the entire ride through, but my worst part was definitely the volcano, the pyroclastic flow. Like, I agree with all you. They should have fucking died. Everyone should have died there.
Yeah, everybody should have died right there. Then they do. Here's another, like, here's why I have some problems with this show. And I understand this is probably written this way for the general audience who has not, they don't understand Tolkien. But we see Isildur, I guess, kind of die.
Yeah, I'm confused.
He's going back to season 2. He's going to make
a dumb choice though to do. I feel like because like I think they should have at least bookend
because like if anyone knows, like if even people know the lore of like the original trilogy, they're like, well, Isildur fucking survives after this. Obviously, he needs to throw the refuse to throw the ring into the.
But I think that should have been the bookend of this season or something. That should have been like the last shot. I think just showing like him in the fucking rubble or whatever the fuck he's doing.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't think that it should have been in the show. It's just if you're putting out a show called The Rings of Power, you're kind of banking on the idea that Lord of the Rings fans are gonna watch it.
oh yeah.
So if
Yeah.
you then kill off Isildur, everyone that knows the lore is like, this is meaningless.
Well, looking
What-
at you, Inquisitor and Obi-Wan. Look
that
at
was
you.
actually Isildur the first. The Isildur that threw the ring in is Isildur the second.
And you
I'm
say
just-
shit like that? Oh my
It's-
god! Like I genuinely. And actually, like, here's the thing, folks. I'm stupid with my Lord of the Rings lore. I didn't know that like Isildur. I didn't know that Isildur's dad. I can't fucking remember his name right now. Was the king at the time and gets killed by Sauron, and then he picks it up and yeah, I thought he was the king at that point. So I thought that this guy's gonna fucking die and Isildur is gonna become king. But this guy clearly has to go back and do a whole shebang.
Also, in like that doesn't happen for like apparently 200 years because Isildur dies when he's like 300 some odd years old.
Yeah, Numenorians live for a very long time, and his father's name is Elendil the Tall, who is
Elendil.
7'11", by the way.
7-Eleven. Let's go get some
Look,
Slurpees.
Like I get it, I understand why they shrunk them down to like normal human standards.
I sort
that
of
would just
do,
be
but I also
annoying.
don't, right? So I get why they did it with the Numenorians because, you know, they're all giants. But what I don't understand is why they did it with Galadriel, who we see is like significantly shorter than any of the Numenorians. She's like 5'2".
Really?
And somebody that like I was having this conversation with somebody and they were like, what are they going to do? Hire an actress that's like 6'2" for the entire show? And it's like, do you think Elijah Wood is actually 4'2"?
Like
Well,
there's
that's what
definitely
we're-
some camera tricks.
Me and AJ were talking about that with like the whole thing. Like, I feel like in the show they did do a couple things with like the Harfoots and
The stranger and everything.
They do with the stranger and the Harfoots. I just don't understand why they did not extend that same treatment to Galadriel, who's very tall.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All of the elves. My biggest problem with the elves in this show is that they just don't look or act like elves. Like they all have like weird updos or like crew cuts. They don't act like elves. They just act like petulant 20-year-olds, and
Yeah,
they're
I
the
think
same
it's
size
weird.
and stature of men. It's
weird
very
that, like,
strange
they
to
have,
me.
Like now that you're pointing it out intensely to me, like and even like Elrond, I'm like, yeah, they should have just given him long hair. Like,
Just give them long
right.
hair. Like
that would've
I
helped.
think, like I don't mind the way they act. I think they do act like graceful and like because I think the idea is that like they're kind of just petty towards humans and other races because like they're just in their own fucking world all the time.
My problem with Elrond is that I can't not see young Ned Stark. I'm sorry. Like,
The only problem with the elves is that their hair is too short.
I just think Elrond looks like a dork.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
well,
kinda.
I think that's also what they're going for. Is like he's kind of just a dork,
he's a
actually.
dorky elf.
Yeah, well, he's not though. This
He
is again
is.
another
He
is.
lore problem.
He's a
Elrond.
dork.
Elrond is a goddamn general and a warrior.
See, I get
They
things a
portray
badass.
him
but
in
he's
the
kind
show
of a
I mean,
dork.
so
You can
bad.
be a
Sure, he
dorky
becomes a
badass.
general and a warrior and like
No, but even when
5,000 years.
here's
even
the
in the
problem is-
original trilogy, though, like there's that face he makes when like the hobbits show up at the council or whatever. That's a dorky face. Like that's a dork.
Well, the problem with Elrond is that he's not written as Elrond. They gave Elrond Celebrimbor's story.
yeah.
Like everything that Elrond has done in this show is literally Celebrimbor's story.
I'm also
should have done all of that.
so again because I know I don't know the whole lore, but I've watched people play fucking Shadows of Mordor or whatever, and I'm like, okay, Celebrimbor, there he is. Like, holy shit. Like, so does he like? Are they going to
Here's
go
what-
into that a little bit? Like, is he like? I know that
Here's
that game
another
isn't
thing.
canon, but like, are they going to go into the fact that does he become darker?
What do you mean?
Not really.
Celebrimbor, like,
no.
because in the game did they imply that he helps Sauron make the One Ring, or
No, I don't think so. I think
No?
this
Okay.
implied that like he made all the rings and then Sauron made the One Ring.
Oh,
He
okay,
taught-
okay.
Correct.
I think he taught Sauron how to make the One Ring.
Oh, okay. I also, ooh man, it was so hurtful because the voice actor that plays Celebrimbor in the game is so good, but then the Celebrimbor in the show is like, oh, okay.
But here's the
He's
thing.
like a-
Here's the thing that like I kind of had a gripe with. Why is Celebrimbor old?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. I hadn't even thought about that. All of the elves that we're seeing should look around the same age.
Yeah.
All of them, because these are
but,
all
like,
the first elves.
If they made Elrond Celebrimbor instead, I think that like his story could have been a lot better.
Hmm.
Like I think it's just I think we need more a positive critique or like what's the word? I guess yeah, just positive critique about what they could do better instead of just dragging it down to being it's just shit.
Yeah, but it is though.
Because
Sorry.
it's
Like,
good, and
but, like,
could
Galadriel's
they have done
husband is
better?
dead.
It was good, and do I agree they could have done better? Absolutely. I'm excited for season 2. Super excited for
I'm
season
excited
2.
for season 2. I'll say that. I'll watch it. Like, I'm in.
I'll watch it. I'm excited. I'm ready.
This is also the thing, because I know that Sauron's evil, sure, but there's a part in me that's like, I wish it was a story element that he actually is like, maybe I don't want to do this. You know what I mean?
I think that's what they're going with because they said they're
Oh,
going to do like a
no.
Walter
I know,
White
Richard,
thing.
I know you don't like that, but I do kind of like that, where it's
going
like,
to be cool.
where it's like, because
They're
in the
gonna do
new
it-
episode, in the newest episode, he literally said something like, when Morgoth died, it was as if a great clenched fist had been like unwrapped around my throat. You know what I mean? That idea, I'm like, that's cool. Maybe he wants to chill out, and Galadriel pushes him to be evil still. Like, that was kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah,
Ugh.
they said they're going for like a Walter White kind of story where they like he's he's a shitty person. Like the entire time through he's kind of a shitty person, but you see him just become a very shitty person later on.
Like, I mean, like, to be fair, the ultimate shitty person. Like,
Yeah.
like Heisenberg was like, yo, I just want my drug empire, but fucking Sauron's like, fuck this shit.
Yo, fuck these
I'm
people.
gonna
I want to kill everyone.
I'm gonna swing my mace one time and kill like 20 people. Let's go. If I remember correctly, Gandalf was made to keep Saruman in check. Really? Wow. Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was Gandalf wasn't going to go to New Middle Earth at all. It was going to be Saruman, and he brought and Radagast was paired with him, and then the Blue Elves, like one of the Blue Elves, I forget their names. He was like, "I'm bringing my friend to this Blue Elf," and they both went. And then Gandalf was like, "Oh, let me go." He's like the young one. He's like, "I want to go to Middle Earth," and the Valinor was like, "Fuck no, you're not gonna go."
Fuck no.
Yeah, they didn't want to do it at first.
I actually like that. That's so cute because like Gandalf is like very whimsical. So it's
Because
like he's like the child.
In terms of the wizards, Gandalf is the youngest,
I love it.
and
I hate it.
and then he's
Okay.
well, this is lore. So, like,
What do you
No,
mean you hate
I
that,
no, I
Richard?
love the lore part. I hate this idea that this stranger is supposed to be Gandalf.
Oh, okay.
but then
okay.
then he's sent to Middle Earth anyway for a different reason. But they didn't think that he would be able to handle Middle Earth because he was so young and weaker than the other wizards. But then obviously not. He becomes Gandalf the White.
I've seen people complaining about the like if the stranger is Gandalf, which it is. Like it has.
I'm pretty sure. I'm 99% sure.
I'm 90 because the way the guy is even acting, and I get that they're not connecting this 100% to Peter Jackson's. He's acting like Ian McKellen. Like it is literally like him.
That's-
and
I
he
mean, that's
says
part of my
quotes that
issue
like
with this show.
like Gandalf says too.
This entire show it's like they want to be their own thing, but they also want to lean as hard into Peter Jackson's trilogy as they can.
that's
They
kind
want
of
it to be an
unfair in
adaptation,
that
but they
sense, I
also like they want it to be their own interpretation and their own adaptation, but they also want it to be taken seriously as Tolkien, which it can't be because it's not. So it's incredibly frustrating to me that they can't just like if you're going to make this an adaptation, then just say that.
But
Like
wasn't
let
the
it
whole thing that
let
they
it
weren't
be its own thing and just let us know from the rip that it's not going to follow the lore.
But that
But
goes
stop
back to like
half-assing it.
that goes back to like the Tolkien estate not giving them the rights. Like if they did have the rights, then they would have been like, this is Tolkien. We're gonna make it as faithful as we can. Probably. I don't know.
That's
I can't see
fair.
this. I can't see a different reality, but that's probably what they would have done.
I agree. Like,
I'm just of the mind that like if you get the rights to make a show and the only thing you can make is the second age, you don't have the material to make a show.
Yeah.
and that's kind of brutal. I feel like that's kind of unfair. Because like
He's brutal Richard,
Lord of the, yeah, Lord of the Rings is like a thing that because 3 movies were great and all, but they had to be really beefy movies. A show, fuck yeah, I'd take a show in this universe and see what's going on.
So I would too, and I would have liked it better if it were less, I guess, focused on the main events. I think that a faithful way that they could have handled the second age with the very little lore that they have to work with would to explore the things that don't have a lot of lore written in the first place. So, for example, I mentioned earlier that there are people of color in Middle Earth, and they're called the Haradrim or the Easterlings. They could have very easily have done a show about either of these people, and it would have checked the diversity checkbox. But it also could have been a very intriguing and interesting show to see Middle Earth through the eyes of someone that we've never seen it through before. But instead, they just choose to just like lean as hard into Peter Jackson as they can,
but I think that
while
we're
also saying that they're different.
We're gonna potentially get that kind of thing later on in the show, I think, because of what we're. Okay, I don't know. Where's Rune? Where is that?
Where's Rune?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
What do you?
Where,
what is that? What do you
where's isn't that where Gandalf is going? Like, which
I don't know.
yeah, you didn't see the goddamn last episode. When he's talking to Nori, he's like, "We're gonna go to."
Let's see.
Is that Rune? Is that where is? Because like that's what I'm saying. Like maybe we do get a cool thing where we get to go to places that we haven't seen in the films, even and shit. Because
it's important to point out that most of the location names are different right now because the Second Age has different names, and the show made up a lot of names too.
Oh, okay, shit. Well then, hey, I mean,
let's see.
If they're going to the east, I think that'd be cool to see what you're talking about. Because even watching those movies, I remember back in the day, like being like, man, these people from the east on these elephants and shit like that. Like, I feel like that's kind of fucking stereotypical.
Rune is the land of the east. Is the east?
Okay, so there we go. Like, hell yeah.
I don't think it's any less stereotypical than any of the people that exist in Middle Earth.
I get you, but it's like it's all very like
watching this be like this is where all the black elves come from.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be like here's your answer.
So there actually is a case for that. Like I remember reading an article talking about how there were elves who traveled to the east who mingled in with that population, and that could have actually provided what I think would have been a really cool world building explanation for how there are now elves of color.
Well, imagine if Aaron actually has Arondir. Like you guys are. Here's the problem. You guys are. I hate elves. Fuck you, elves, for being so goddamn old. Because you guys are saying how like these are the first elves from whatever goddamn place.
Yeah,
fuck. I was like, man, that'd be cool if Arondir was like, yeah, my parents were, or one of my parents was from the east or some shit like that.
I agree. I would have loved that. Actually, I would have actually loved that. But that's not the case because in multiple occasions we see that the elven population is just all races.
I'm going to slam you down here, Richard. I'm going to destroy you with one fell swoop. Okay, ready? So remember remember how you got us with this goddamn Jon Snow show thing?
Yeah.
I'm about to destroy you. So imagine if right now, instead of Rings of Power, they had announced the show. And it was like, yo, we're going to follow like what happened to fucking Frodo when he went across the ocean. What happened?
Well, we actually know that. Across when he went to Valinor, I think he died.
Well, but like,
let's know exactly what happened.
But yeah, like let's follow him into the fucking afterlife for no fucking reason, where he can then find Sauron also in the afterlife, and he fucking has to refight Sauron.
Nah, he wouldn't find him there.
But what if they did that?
What if they did that? What if they did that?
Because that's sort of what it is here. Where
that's what the Jon Snow show thing is. You son of a bitch.
The Jon Snow show is lore that hasn't been written because it's in the future of beyond what
right. That's
George
exactly why
wrote.
It's different.
But so then if they did that with this, with like not like this show,
fine.
With
this is fine because it's in the back where things are, and they can explain certain things like House of the Dragon. But
going backwards is different than going forward. So going forwards beyond what he's written is fine, I think. When it comes to like what happens to Frodo if he goes to Valinor, for example, there's nothing to write there because it's already written. We know what happens. He's dead.
He dies. But like, what?
But we know that Jon Snow goes to the north and dies. Like that's the same argument. He goes to the fucking north and nothing happens because there's no fucking Night King. And if there is, I'm pissed.
No, we don't know that because there's nothing there.
Because like after the wrapping of like the story where it's like everything is safe now and everyone's good, and then they're like, we're making another story of him north of the wall.
It could have been anybody. It could have been anybody. Like I'm sorry that I picked Frodo, but like it could have been anybody in Lord of the Rings.
Well, like, what's the story gonna be with Jon Snow? Is he gonna fight another big bad or something?
So to an extent, I understand what you're trying to say, and I do understand the logical quandary in this sense, but I do think there's a difference between adding new lore and changing written lore. Adding new lore is something that I can be okay with if it's done in a what I think tasteful and respectful way. Even the Peter Jackson movies did that. But when you change existing lore and you do it so egregiously as this show has done, it stops being the thing that it was based on in the first place. And that is my biggest problem with the Rings of Power, is that it tries so hard to be taken seriously as the Lord of the Rings. It's in the title, but it isn't. It can't be because it's so altered that it's almost unrecognizable.
Okay, but like in that same sense, we could see similar things in House of the Dragon with Fire and Blood. I get that that's a documentation book or whatever, like it's not a proper book. and I get that like the Lord of the Rings books aren't either, but maybe you could interpret it in that capacity, right? Like especially
Oh
like
yeah,
isn't the Silmarillion not a book? Isn't it kind of like a
it's
document?
more like an encyclopedia.
Okay, yeah. So it's kind of like that in that sense, where it's like all of this stuff is just up to it's been written down, right? So it's maybe not what was. That's I
Right.
don't know.
Well, that's I did say earlier that Tolkien's writing is famously difficult to interpret because it spans decades and he changes his mind on stuff quite often. But there is a sort of established status quo on what we understand he was trying to come across. Some of that's because the Tolkien estate has clarified some things. Some of it's because we take his later writings more seriously than his earlier writings. But the when you say like House of the Dragons does change some of the lore that George R. R. Martin wrote,
Yeah.
but it handles that lore in a way that builds upon the universe that it's in. It handles it in a respectful way to the source material.
Well, it makes
and
it in a
handles
way that like
in a way that's interesting.
it kind of
Like
builds
changing
off
the
of that book in a way,
Valarians,
right?
changing the Valarians to being people of color is handled in a way that I think is amazing. Like the moment I saw them, I was like, they look fucking great. And not only do they look great, but they're cool. They're interesting. And they don't call too much attention to it, but there's still like that whole family looks that way. It's not like they're all over the place. But when you go with like Rings of Power and it's just constantly changing the lore to fit whatever idea that they have that things should be, I'm just of the mind that when you have the showrunners of this show who are hacks, and they take something like Tolkien and they rewrite it to fit whatever they think it should be, it is arrogant.
Silmarillion is a collection of Tolkien's writings published after he died, requested by his son. It's still just like is it? But when it's down, like is it like so for even that there isn't a true writer's intention with the stories? Oh, okay.
Christopher Tolkien himself has kind of taken the reins on like what is and isn't canon.
Well, like,
So
what if Tolkien was alive today and they're like, we got Tolkien's blessing to make this show exactly as it is?
I would still take it with a grain of salt because they did that with the Stephen King Dark Tower series.
Fuck yeah.
But like, what if they're like a George R. R. Martin thing, where it's like we got him we got him advising us on this show the entire ride through, and it's exactly as it is.
So it depends, right? So I'm gonna make a hypocrite of myself here, but like, George Lucas.
Oh fuck! I was gonna say something, but okay, you go.
George Lucas is famously
Oh, I hate this guy. Oh,
halfway destroyed his entire legacy by altering Star Wars to a point that it was just stupid. And I think that if we look at the prequels, we can see that like George Lucas's changes to the prequels and his changes to the existing three movies in re-release form is the catalyst for all the bad shit that came afterwards, because it just starts to make it dumb. And I do think that if you have the work of an artist, it should be looked at as its own sort of thing. It takes up its own space in the universe. And if the artist then goes back and makes alterations to it or approves alterations to it, it is now a different thing. Even if the original artist did it, it's now a new thing. And that's how I feel about this show and all of these, like the current mix of shows that are coming out. Like once you start to change it to the point where it deviates from the source material, you have to recognize that it's not the same anymore. And if this show wants to be taken seriously as Tolkien, then it should probably adhere to Tolkien.
now I just think that in general though, that I would say the mass audience watching a show doesn't know this stuff. You know what I mean?
Completely agree.
Like I think that
Honestly, if I didn't know Tolkien and I watched this show, I'd probably still hate it, but I'd be less critical.
Like,
I would probably
do
like
know
'cause, yeah, I got bored.
I do know
halfway
Tolkien,
through.
and I
Yeah,
And
and
it's
I'm
still
not.
like
I
the
don't.
show.
I don't mean to imply that like everyone who knows Tolkien feels this way. Everybody's got their own feelings on different subjects, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And at the end of the day, like I joke around about how I absolutely hate this show and it's the worst show I've ever seen in my life. I don't really think that way. I've seen far worse. I am incredibly frustrated by what I think is the mishandling of a thing that I love. And I think at the end of the day, I still watched most of the show, and I will still watch the last episode probably after this just out of begrudging respect for the two of you.
The fucking thing is, like, the Halbrand actor the whole time, I was like, I don't really care. But then he really brought it in that last episode, and I was like, you fucker. God damn it.
Yeah, I saw in the cliff notes that I watched that he does change the way he's acting, and I can appreciate that. Even though it was written on the wall from the first episode that he's goddamn
I'm
Sauron.
stupid, I guess. Like, it's like, I was just, it's like, man, that'd be boring. I thought he was maybe going to be like a Nazgul or some shit. Yeah, like, I was like, maybe he becomes like.
Speaking of which, what's up with the three witches and them turning into
Yeah, oh!
Moths.
wraiths?
They turn
the
into moths.
Yeah, at the end, they turn
The
into
hell-
moths,
what was-
yeah.
The hell was that? What
Those-
even is
What
that?
are they? What are they? Yeah.
Those-
What are they?
those-
I don't know.
Yeah, those people, I honestly, they're an enigma. I have
Fun
no idea
fact.
where they came from and why they were in the show.
Fun
Yeah,
fact, everyone. Everyone thought, like, because the promo picture for Sauron or whatever came out, and everyone was so worried. It was like the main chick in that group or whatever, like the one that never spoke.
The one that looked like Eminem.
Yeah.
Yeah, like everyone was like, "That's Sauron. Why did Sauron cut his hair?" And I'm like, "What the?
Why does Sauron have titties?
How did that get out? Like, how did that like? What the hell?"
Interestingly,
Like,
I don't think I would have
honestly,
minded
those-
if they
those
gender bent
three-
Sauron.
Those three remind me of like the Sand Snakes. Like you could take them out and it'll be the same story.
Yeah, there was the one, especially like because there was the one that was silent. There was the one that had like the weird, like hood crown thing, and then the one that was just in a knight outfit that was stupid as hell.
I guess that was just like to give Gandalf his staff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I
something.
guess. Yeah, I didn't even really.
I,
Or, like he could just like picked up a stick and be like,
Any
"This is my
stick.
staff." You
The
know, like
fucking funniest thing in the world was like he just was like, "I am good," and I was like, "Oh
Yeah.
fuck,
that reminds me of like I am Groot.
oh, fucking hell."
so these sort of like plot characters are one of my biggest complaints with the show. And my biggest complaint outright is the writing and the pacing, especially the pacing is really bad.
But like
Yep.
those
but,
things
like,
weren't even like
Ad-
plot
Adar
characters. They were just
and
like
those-
random.
Right, that's what I mean. Like Adar and those three, Adar or whatever, and those three people are like, what even is this?
Because
What is
Adar
the
was
point of
meant to
this?
be like another like red herring. It was like, is this Sauron?
But like,
Is
if
this-
that's the
yeah,
case,
it's
then
just-
I'm really think they should have just killed him in this fucking season. I think like
They should have.
because
They
like
should. I totally agree.
I
But I
wonder
think they
what
might
like,
have
the
bigger plans for
interaction
him.
between Sauron and Adar is going to be in the next season because like he isn't. I mean, he might not be in Mordor anymore, but he was last time.
It's either they fuck or they kill each other.
Or like, and actually, wait, it couldn't be. Never mind, I'm stupid. Because he's wearing like Nazgul-ish armor and shit. I don't know. Like he's got like
It's just evil armor.
I
but
get it,
what-
okay.
I don't even understand what he's supposed to be. So is he
got the
supposed to be one
fingers.
of the original elves that turns into?
he was
Orcs?
he's the first Uruk, right?
yeah, he's the first Uruk. He's,
But how?
He's like the proto orc.
How is he their father? What is he making new orcs?
He's
Does he
not like
reproduce
literally
asexually?
their father. He's like the father in the same way that like I don't know, like Sauron is like the
Yeah,
the father,
I
you
see.
know? Like,
I see where you're coming from. I just think it's kind of, I don't know, man. I just don't like him as a character. I like how he looks.
I
and the
like how he
actor
looks.
plays him.
I like him. He's cool.
I just
I think
my
they're
first-
just gonna kill him though.
Good old-
To
good old
be
Ben-
honest.
he's dead.
Oh, he's
he's gonna
definitely
get
die.
henchman.
That's why I just,
Yeah, he's gonna get henchman treatment.
that's why I was like, yo, you're gonna like. I figured like
This
I
guy's
figured he was
either
gonna get killed in the blast. That's again what
like
I thought
this.
they were gonna do.
This guy might just turn to like a fucking what was it, Wormtail?
Oh my
what was
god,
it?
Worm Tongue or something like that. Isn't it?
Wormtongue. Wormtail's from Harry Potter.
You got a name
I
Worm
was
Tongue,
watching
and
the,
you're not going anywhere in life.
Yeah.
I was watching the show with a buddy, and the second time we saw Adar or Dar or whatever, I paused the show and I looked at my buddy and I was like, "This guy is straight up like the mini boss that I'd use in D&D before the real boss."
Yeah,
Yeah.
no kidding. It like really
I mean,
gives that
may-
vibe.
yeah, I guess that's sort of what it is. Yeah.
But kill him. man.
He just feels like such a nonsense character that doesn't need to be there, just like those three people were that were looking for not Gandalf.
Yeah, they were his little mini boss.
It's just they don't need to be there. They don't really serve the plot. And
Yeah,
if
like,
anything,
I
biggest
honestly
problem with
forgot
the show
about
is
them until Sam just brought them up.
right. It's the pacing in the show is just so awkward. And I really genuinely think, despite all of my problems with the show, that if they changed up the writing a little bit to fix the pacing, I probably would not hate it as bad. Because I felt like there were 3 or 4 episodes in the middle that I was like grinding my teeth waiting for them to end. They were just so goddamn boring. Like if
You
I have
could-
to sit
like,
here
you
and
say
listen to
that,
Galadriel talk
I
about
could say
getting
the
on a
same thing
boat
about,
for
like-
another episode, I'm gonna lose my mind.
I'm gonna say it again. I could say the same thing about like about House of Dragon.
See, and I would hardcore disagree. Like, like every time I'm watching House of the Dragon, I'm like on the edge of my seat. But I do agree with Richard that like the 3 middle episodes for me were like
the first
boring.
like 4 or 5 episodes were boring for me of House of the Dragon.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I think House of the Dragon, has competent enough writing that I can be engaged in it. Whereas the flip side, Rings of Power just doesn't have good enough dialogue for that. And there are questionable things happening. Like, how the hell do all these people keep getting up to the king's room? The king of Numenor. Do they not have guards? And to be fair, House of the Dragon, I said the same thing about with the dragons. Like, do they not have guards guarding the dragons?
And actually, I rewatched that episode last night again. They actually specifically mentioned that there are going to be guards guarding it, and somehow she still gets through. So that is
and
a
they
little
didn't
bit
show
weird.
any of
Oh, you're
That is
telling me
weird.
that she somehow defeated 5 guards and threw them into a cell and didn't even show it?
Fair.
Fair.
I got nothing on that. Like, that's frustrating. I don't understand. Like, there's a scene, I mentioned this in passing in a different episode, but there's a scene where Elendil is accompanying Galadriel to her cell, and she hands him a dagger, or he hands her a dagger. I can't remember the order of it. But this is while they're in the primary courtroom with the Queen Regent right there, with every person of power in this entire city in the room, and 5 guards literally escorting them. She gets handed a dagger, or he hands her a dagger. I can't remember. But they're exchanging weapons right there. Well, it was Halbrand. That's what it was.
Halbrand stole it from Elendil.
That's what it was. Yeah.
As he was
Halbrand steals a dagger and then hands Galadriel the dagger while she's being escorted by 5 guards. And I
don't think she wasn't being escorted. He was being escorted.
Whoever was. The point is, there's a whole bunch of goddamn guards literally watching them in that moment. You can see them in the scene. You can see the guards looking at them in the background.
Magic,
and it's just like, what the shit?
Yo, okay.
Like,
now this is a question for you. Sorry. Continue, Richard.
I just can't. There's some bits in this show which this is absurd because it's a fantasy, but I can't suspend my disbelief on some of these scenes that are just like, this is happening because the plot needs it to happen.
For a show connected to Lord of the Rings, I really wanted the ending to kind of like have a little bit more. Like, not the ending. I get this is the only the ending of the season, but I really wanted to have like a little bit more like. Okay, my big one. What happened at Numenor? And this is for AJ because you haven't seen the episode, Richard. But like, what was going on there? Did that tsunami that she envisioned like hit and like everything's destroyed, or like?
I think what she was envisioning wasn't hitting. What wasn't the idea of hitting Numenor? I think it was the tsunami that like it started the volcano.
Oh, okay. Well, shit. See, because like when they came back,
and, like,
Numenor
in turn destroys Numenor.
Numenor is destroyed by a tsunami.
Oh, there you go. There's that too.
But like, okay, because I didn't really understand what was happening from what I saw. Like, because they came back into the harbor and everything was like pretty fucking disheveled. So like, did that happen then, or like what like?
So in the lore,
I'm going back.
I haven't seen the episode yet.
I need to see
I'm gonna read you a quote directly from just me Googling.
Okay.
Numenor was drowned by a great wave and sank into the abyss, killing its inhabitants, including the body of Sauron, which robbed him his ability to assume fair forms ever after.
Okay, so that will still happen. Okay, so never mind. I think all that it is, because it just looked a little disheveled. All they're seeing is the black flags that are symbolizing the fact that the king has died. But
yeah,
to me, it just looked. I felt like I needed a little bit more going on after that. Like,
I think as much as they made Numenor look so beautiful and they nailed it, they knocked it out of the park with how Numenor looks aesthetically. I just don't understand why they didn't even bother to make the Numenorians seem any different than any other man on Middle Earth, because they are very different. They're technically not even men.
Yeah, like, because like
it's
even with
strange.
the age thing that you guys are talking about, where it's like the fact that they live for a lot longer, right? Like, I think it would have been a good idea to somehow imply that, because this is gonna be kind of weird. Are we gonna time jump like a big amount to get to a point where he becomes like how old is he right now? Elendil is what I'm saying with that.
How old is he at this moment?
At this moment, how old do you think he is?
Who the hell knows? He dies at 300 and
That's what
something.
I'm saying. Like, what point are we in his life right now? How far away from 300 are we?
It's the weirdness with this show and the way it's writing is like, when does this take place in the Second Age? Because the impression I think they're trying to put out there is that this is the second age ushering in the third age, but they're plowing through time like so fast. Like most of the events that happen that are like pivotal events in Lord of the Rings that set up the third age happen over thousands of years, and this show's just like, man, that shit happened in a week.
Wow. Okay.
That's what I was bringing up. Like they sort of shrinking down a lot of timelines because otherwise, fuckers would be dying left and right. Like humans would just be gone. They would not be a character in this that's a human.
Amazon, when you're watching things, puts up general trivia when you hover over it. And for the scene where Sauron was revealed, it says, general trivia, nothing is evil in the beginning. Even Sauron was not so. For evil tempts and corrupts and twists, as Morgoth did to many elves in the Elder Days. Book 2, Chapter 2.
What was that? What now?
Book 2, Chapter 2. That Sauron, even Sauron wasn't evil in the beginning.
Again...
No, like what's saying that? The show?
Like literally like
it's a show quoting the books.
You know where like the cast list and stuff comes up on Amazon when you're watching it? Like, yeah. It comes up on that. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But again, like it pushes into that idea of the fact I do want Sauron to be a little bit of like a character where it's like I feel like he
like we know where he's going. We know what's happening with him.
But I like the fact that if he was actually offering to kind of be okay and Galadriel is so in her own hatred for him that she couldn't allow that, I think that's even better. Like, that's a way cooler line to go down than him just being evil.
Well,
you know what I mean?
By this point, Sauron is already super duper evil. Like, Morgoth has already done his whole thing with Sauron involved in that. Like, Sauron by this point is already pretty damn twisted.
Well, yeah, I think that's
I get that
idea, but like I think he's trying to become good, but like things just push him back to evil anyway.
I feel like
gotcha.
I think
we know he's going to become evil.
That's what I'm saying. It's way more interesting for it to not just be that he is evil, and for it to be something like Galadriel pushed him into this in a sense. Like I think that's way more narratively cool and way more like worldly cool, if that makes sense. I mean, Saruman wasn't evil to start with either. Home just happens to study dark magics as his main thing. True.
Well, he's a craftsman of the Valar. Like making shit's kind of his thing. Evil is portrayed in a very, I don't want to say unique because it's not unique, but a very specific way in Lord of the Rings. Like not everything is evil. Things are kind of tainted, and Sauron is tainted by evil, but he's also just a dickhead. Like he was always a dickhead.
I mean, he's kind of a dickhead in this too.
Yeah, true. Morgoth is probably the more evil of the two.
What I'm gathering is Morgoth is the devil. Like he is just the ultimate evil.
You could almost, yeah. I would say it this way: Morgoth is the embodiment of evil, and Sauron is probably like the Judeo-Christian interpretation of Lucifer.
Yeah.
He's like the fallen angel that gets corrupted because he wasn't always a bad boy, but then he gets to be the biggest, baddest boy.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I hate that I'm probably going to watch the last episode of this show and I'm probably going to watch the second season and give it another chance. I am seriously hoping that at the very least, they learn from the pacing issues, they learn from some of the costume issues, and they learn from some of the dialogue issues. And the second season, I sincerely hope just blows me out of the water. So that I can eat my own words.
Like they've been saying that like the first season is just like a taste, and it's a good taste. I like the taste. The second season, I'm excited for. If the second season, I'll be honest, if the second season doesn't really do anything like different, like if it sort of stays the same stuff here, I might hate it more. But looking at it now, I like it. I'm
okay,
excited.
like because currently, what can we do? Like, what plot lines right now do we have in the show that are going to steamroll forward? Like, do we see, what's his name? Arondir, like the black
Arondir.
Arondir, yeah. Do we see him anymore? Or like, what is he done?
I don't know. Let me point out a quick thing real quick. I'm sorry, but this is just another example of like what the hell writing for me was. Adar lets Arondir go, and he says to him, deliver a message to these people. And then the next thing you see is Arondir running through the woods with his weapons, and the orcs are chasing him.
True. I guess so. I was expecting Arondir to like be turncoat somehow.
I kind of would have liked that. I think it would have subverted my expectations.
I thought that Adar would have gotten in his head or something like that and made him like almost kill Bronwyn or some shit like that. Be dark, you know.
It's just such a strange scene. Like, if you're gonna let him go, why give him his weapons? Why send your orcs to kill him? And then why is your message just we're gonna kill you? Like, he gets to town, he's like, the orcs are coming. They said we're gonna kill you.
That's bad writing, yeah. Like, and when you say it like that, especially, it fucking cements it down.
Why did they need to deliver that as a message? They could have just done it.
That's an orc that like shoots an arrow at them or some shit. It just says, "We're gonna kill you."
It's just like I feel like the whole show is written for scenes. Like, they're like, oh man, wouldn't it be cool if Arondir was running through the woods and orcs were chasing him and he was like flipping off of trees and shooting bows or shooting arrows at him and killing them? Hell yeah, that'd be cool. How do we fit that in here?
Here's my problem with, like, this is a broad thing with Lord of the Rings. Here's my problem with elves. They don't die until they have to narratively, like in a fucking annoying capacity where like they jump on, they can jump on fucking arrows to jump on arrows. You know, they can do whatever the fuck they need to until suddenly an arrow just blocks them. You're like, well, what the fuck was that? Like when the guy, like when they get out of the trench or whatever, right? And the guy has to like book it across this field and he only makes it like 30 feet and he's pelted by like 3 arrows. I was like, really?
Where do those arrows come from?
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck? Y'all were doing so good before. Get out of here.
They gave Arondir his bow and then separately gave him arrows. Like, why? Why would they do that? Just a strange,
it's a very
choice.
weird thing. But like, okay, like, I don't think
I
don't think he's coming back.
I see where you're coming from.
I genuinely don't think that he's going to be the next season. Like, maybe he will be,
You don't
but
think so?
I don't know. Like, what would that plotline be?
Well, if they bring him out now, then people are going to hate it that they took out the black guy.
I guess. But I just mean, like, maybe I guess they would include him into another person's, but are we going to go back to, like, the Southlands and spend 8 episodes of a subplot with him and Bronwyn being like, what do we do now? Make a new fucking settlement out here? I don't know. Like,
also, what the hell is up with Mithril in this show? I don't understand it. What is it? Like, so the elves need Mithril to even live long? That's not a thing?
Yeah.
What is that? The hell is that all about?
That was weird.
That was a little bit of a thing that made me go like, well, like shit. Because like, was the implication that they were just gonna, would they just die off naturally, or would they literally like die quickly soddenly? Like, would that?
I think that the show's implying that without Mithril, they just like rot.
Well, like
it's
been thousands of years. Like, would that have come up earlier?
Furthermore, if they need the Mithril to survive, then why on earth would they try to put it into one condensed location in a ring?
Well, I think the idea, they have the 3 rings, and the idea. Yeah, you go, AJ. You're gonna be able to say it better.
It's like the rings are sort of like a power source to like help all the elves. Like it's sort of connect them back to Valinor.
They explain it in the next episode.
So it's like it's sort of like I think the idea is like bringing Valinor to like these rings, and that will extend like the reach of that.
Is it like a router, and the elves have to like connect to the Wi-Fi?
I think so. I think like it's a router to reach Middle Earth, and then like all the elves in Middle Earth sort of just feel that.
Sauron's main flaw was that he was a craftsman of Aule and wanted everything to be perfect. Sadly, through the influence of Melkor, he determined the best way to do this was if he controlled everything by dominating people's will and strength. Well, that's the other thing too. Is the fact that like in the raft discussion, like when Galadriel asks him, oh no, because he said something like to. Fuck, what does he say on the raft? It's like, because he can't determine the difference between ruling and something else. But
drooling,
ruling and drooling. But he said like, I see no difference, and I was like, yeah, because like maybe like he would just I don't know. He just wants control, and I'm like, maybe I'm a fucking Sauron supporter. I don't know.
See, this is why I have to like hear you guys and your opinions. Because otherwise, I just hate this. And like hearing you guys talk about it sort of like reinvigorates me and makes me second guess my own opinions. And now I'm walking away from this having spewed my hatred across the board, thinking like, fuck, maybe I'll give it another chance.
No, well, I don't want to be the guy that makes you give it another chance and for you to be like, fuck.
Yeah, I don't want you to. I don't want you to give a second chance just to hate it again.
Because like I will say, and then in this last episode, big fucking thing that happened for me was like, I get that like you can't be like really open about the fact that Halbrand was Sauron to everybody, but maybe be like, we shouldn't go ahead with what we're doing. Like I don't know, like,
right?
Because that was a little bit like, because even Elrond gives her a look like, what the fuck is going on? And she's like, I don't know.
Yeah, like we need 3 rings. I'm like, I don't know. Like,
where is Celeborn? Where is Celeborn? That's Galadriel's husband. They wrote him off as being dead. What?
Did they actually say that ever? Like, I missed that.
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
She's talking to, I think, Halbrand about it. She's like, I have a husband. He dead.
Oh, okay. I remember that conversation. Okay.
Like, no, he
See,
not dead.
Now, Richard, in that fucking dude, okay, now that scene, this is the scene that makes me really think about Sauron in that way, where he literally says to Galadriel, he's like, you don't know what I did before. At one point, everyone will know what I've done, and you will cast me out for it. And I'm like, yo, like, he sounds actually like he has some regrets, and he doesn't want to be cast out by people, but he knows that they will. Like, it sounds.
I think
Still, how you didn't pick up what he was putting down at that point?
Well, because I just thought he was a
me.
boring Halbrand character. I didn't give a fuck about Halbrand. Like, that's the thing. I could give two
yeah, really.
I could give two shits about what he's talking about until suddenly he's saying, like, I am Sauron! And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go back and listen to things you've been saying now, but
Yeah, like going back on, I'm like, oh shit, he was really talking about this the whole time.
I watched a whole 5-minute clip where it was like, yeah,
I thought
it's
I thought he was gonna say like, I like shit like, oh, I got my entire fucking kingdom killed or some shit like that, you know, like. But instead, he's like, no, I'm literally like the worst Hitler you could think of.
I am the Dark
Yeah, I think the moment for me that it sort of clicked in was the moment that this character, who is being portrayed as sort of like the second main character, is Batman style beating people up in an alleyway, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah, because like there was the scene
All right.
right before that where it goes like really, it goes like high pitched and everything. Where I was like, something's fucked with this guy.
right, and they show that
Yeah.
he has like an unusual interest in smithing.
Yeah, like
So-
there's definitely moments where I was like,
His first,
like it's weird, it's suspicious. I didn't know, I didn't want to make any like concrete sort of this guy immediately, but I definitely had my suspicions about him.
his first line in the entire show is "looks can be deceiving." So
Yeah.
fuck. Kind of fucked myself there. But then he was really putting it on the nose in the last episode, because especially when he was like, because I had read a thing of lore right before watching the episode where it was like, yeah, Sauron, known as like the giver of gifts, and then like in the last episode he literally gives Celebrimbor something. He's like, consider it a gift, and I was like, oh, you fuck.
He was giving Celebrimbor an idea of how to make the mithril last.
Yeah. Which I liked. I thought that was cool.
But yeah, about wrap this up, guys, eh?
I think that
Yeah.
unless you guys have any other closing thoughts, I'm excited to see where
I'm
they go.
excited.
I'm not excited. But
I
I'm
would say
interested.
you brought to light some like good points, Richard. I'm not gonna really change my opinion all too much, but you definitely brought
I
up
feel
some
the
good
same way.
points.
I feel like you've kind of swayed me in the other direction, where now I'm sitting more in a middle stance.
Hell yeah.
But
I'm
I do
I'm
want
still
to.
like
I do wanna
more middle.
clarify.
I'm still like it's a pretty good show, but like obviously like I never thought it was like god tier, you know, like
Yeah, I do want to clarify, just because I know what it sounds like when I'm talking about, changing the races of elves and stuff. That one of the reasons why this show rubbed me the wrong way so sincerely is that is an issue that is very near and dear to me, for reasons I can't really get into. But
okay.
I think that when it comes to issues of diversity and inclusion, that is such an important topic in our world today, especially in Western culture, where I believe that it's something that needs to be handled very sensitively and delicately.
Yeah,
And I feel like this show took diversity, slapped it on the side of a bulldozer, and just plowed its way through. And it comes across as disingenuous to me.
okay, when you put it like that, I do see where you're coming from actually.
I
Where,
hope
like,
that makes more
there's-
sense, and I don't sound as hateful.
I get it. Like you're sort of just like they're, instead of like treating it as a sensitive topic, they're sort of just saying diversity
Deal with it.
is whatever, you know,
It's
diversity
here
is
to
whatever you want it
stay.
to be, you know.
They literally, like, one of the showrunners actually said almost those exact words. Like, they said, BIPOC is here to stay in Middle Earth. Deal with it. And
Yeah.
it's like, come on, man. Can we handle this with a little bit more respect, please?
I'm
I get
wanting
where you're
I'm
coming
wanting a show where Middle Earth is on the brink of the prophecy of Melkor's return, and we get some high octane tension scenes with other Ainur. See, all those words, I don't fucking know what the fuck you're talking about.
I love how you say Ainur.
How do you say Ainur? What is it?
Ainur. Ainur.
Ainur. What is it? What is it? Ainur?
I want to see some high octane tension between Melkor and some. I want to get some Ainur in there.
Is Ainur? That's fucking dumb. I'm sorry.
Ainur.
I said
Whereas
Aule right, didn't I? I said that right.
Yeah.
You got close enough. I think that in the show, they'd probably Galadriel would be like
like all-
Ainur.
Ainur.
Numenor.
Oh my
Well,
god!
Numenor does
Anytime,
have a rolling R. So.
anytime they
Numenor.
fucking say Sauron in this show, I get a
Sauron.
fucking boner.
Sauron.
I'm not gonna lie. Like
Wait.
it, like
Numenor.
it does something for me. They roll.
It's
Numenor
like the
is
actress-
pronounced that way though.
Numenor.
It is, and the actress. It feels like she learned how to roll her R's and was like, "I'm doing this all the time now." It's like when a little kid like gets a new toy, you know, and they're just playing with it constantly. Like that's kind of how I feel about Galadriel rolling her R's, because she like a lot of the people in the show don't say it that way. It's just Galadriel all the time.
But Sam, to translate, Melkor is a god, and the Ainur are pretty much just gods. Ainur.
Pretty much, yeah. They're kind of like a mix between gods and aliens.
Yeah.
What the fuck? What do you when you say that? Like, what do you mean? Like visually? Like
Lord of
what
the Rings
hell?
lore is weird, dude, because like Valinor and like all of like the heavenly planes are represented as physical places. There, it's not like heaven as we would think of it.
Also,
like
I thought today's background was a reference to Kung Fu Panda when the tortoise joins the force.
That's fucking so funny that you say that. Holy shit. Which also, I like that you say that when the tortoise joins the force, because I'm gonna fucking do this right now.
Huh.
So, not to say that the new trilogy that we got is ass, but I mean the last movie is for Star Wars, but if they had just taken the Kung Fu Panda scripts and just tweaked them a bit, those fucking movies, and
Oh
you
my
laugh,
God.
Richard. You laugh, Richard. But actually,
You're right.
Yeah, and I want to make a video about this one day. I really will, because I'll go into detail about how really, if they had just tweaked a couple things, the foundation of the Kung Fu Panda trilogy makes for a fucking cool ass Star
Dude.
Wars trilogy.
are you Chris Angel? Because you are freaking my
I'm
mind right
freaking-
now, dude.
We'll go into it at one point, because like
Holy shit!
I think Luke would have been Master Oogway, and just instead, and people would be like, he died in the second movie. I'd be like, yeah, he was gonna fucking die in this trilogy, you dipshits. Like, what you think was gonna happen?
Oh
Like,
my god,
and
I have
he would-
never been so sad for something that never existed.
I know.
Holy
Richard.
shit!
Fucking
That would've been
Kylo Ren
amazing.
would have been fucking Ty Lau or whatever. He would have been in the prison thing and escaped in a cool fucking scene. Like,
So awesome.
I think it would have been dope. He would have. Oh my god, yeah. One day,
Holy
folks,
shit.
we'll have a stream. It'll be called Kung Fu Panda X Star Wars, and we'll see.
I thought your tree was a Dorito tree.
story
and I
that
thought-
never was.
Burrito tree.
I'm sad
all
now
the
that
Dorito
Dorito
powder.
trees don't exist.
Nah, I did one little string of darkness going up the root of it, because it was like, oh, it's getting shitty. But I don't know. I was almost gonna have
Anyway,
the animation.
going moldy.
The animation was gonna be like the leaf going down and then becoming fire. Oh, we didn't fucking mention that. How'd you guys feel about them like just throwing in our face the fucking Balrog thing? Like, how'd you feel about that?
That I don't know. I don't know how I feel.
I didn't care. Like when they did that, I was like, don't fucking do that. Like I know what the fuck is
Like
coming.
put that baby back to sleep, please. It's not happening yet.
Like,
I didn't see this. When did
Oh.
this, is this in the
no,
last
this
episode or
this was in the second last
Second
Was-
last episode where
was
like
it
they closed
this?
up the Mithril mine. Was that last episode?
Oh, right.
And then
yeah,
they like
that's
really throw it in your face like the Balrog, and you're like, okay, we.
yeah, they're not really supposed to know about that. Like
Yeah.
the elves would, but the dwarves
Oh, I
maybe
don't-
That
not.
Yeah, I
bitch
don't
is
think
supposed
they
to be
do at
sleeping
all.
right now.
I
Yeah,
think all I needed from that would have been the leaf falls down and catches fire. That's it. I didn't need it to be like,
Yeah.
yo, look, I'm a motherfucking Balrog. You remember me from the movie, right? That was a little
Yeah.
much.
because it's supposed to pretty
It's
much
supposed
literally
to
be
happen
in like
two
a state
Durans
of
from
like
now, okay?
it's kind of in like a state of torpor, and it's described nebulously where like where the Balrog is not even necessarily like a physical place. It's
Yeah.
like when Gandalf is fighting the Balrog, he's like fighting it through like planar realms. It's
Yeah.
confusing. It's not like he's like literally falling. He's battling it through like the realms of
Time
Middle
and
Earth or of
space.
Lord of the Rings. Pretty much, yeah. It's wacky, but Lord of the Rings lore is wacky.
Like literally at one point you're like in a cave in 3,000 years before Lord of the Rings, and you just suddenly see like we're with these characters or whatever in a cave, and you see Gandalf and the fucking Balrog falling, and you're like, what the fuck was that?
Holy shit.
Not gonna lie, dude. I think I'd love that.
That would be cool. If that'd be whoa, very Dark Souls moment right there.
Yeah, I think that the best way to fix this show for me personally would be to either lean off of Peter Jackson and do your own thing and just embrace that you're doing your own thing, or lean hard back into proper Tolkien. Like this kind of middle game that they're playing it just comes across as frustrating for me.
I get where you're coming from with that, yeah.
That's all I got though.
I think
All
that
right.
that pretty much wraps it up for me too. Richard, you shout yourself out. I feel like I always fucking do it for you, and I feel bad. Like I take the reins from
Watch, I'm gonna do it proper this time because I
Alright.
never do. Don't come to my channel. Shit.
you. Shit.
My name is Brutal Richard. I make D&D maps and do a whole bunch of other silly shit. I do everything in a very silly way. You can throw things at me and yell at me. I'm mean to my chat. My chat's meaner to me. Come check me out.
He's being. He loves you all.
Yeah.
He's so good to play horror games with. Holy shit! Have you ever played Project Zomboid, Richard?
It is one
Oh.
of my favorite games ever.
Oh my god,
my God.
Richard!
I have been playing that game since launch in like 2011.
Oh my god, Richard! Let's fucking play. You fucking
Boy,
play
I'm
all
in.
these goddamn games, and like the Isle, and you don't tell me. Like,
It says they have 128 hours. Did you play on something else?
Yes, it initially was on a platform called Desura.
oh
It
my
no longer exists.
god, Desura! Holy
Mhm.
shit!
Yeah, you didn't think I could back it up, but I did.
No, I've played Paranautical. I played Paranautical. I can't even say it. Paranautical Activity from that. So
Yeah, I probably have thousands of hours in Project Zomboid. I'm playing it through the years.
Oh shit, that was the wrong thing. Sorry. That's
I
not
played that
going in the
game
chat.
back in the day when it was
bye.
when the zombies looked like aliens. I don't know if you guys remember that.
No,
Uh,
I've only been playing the game for like what, like a couple years now, AJ, or how long has it been?
The game used to be completely two-dimensional, no 3D assets at all, and the zombies were all like just regular. They wore like gray clothes and they had green skin and they looked like aliens.
No fucking way.
Look it up. Look up original Project Zomboid zombies. They look really bad.
I had the game since like I want to say like 2016 or 17, and I've been just too afraid to play. I don't know why. And then up until like 2 years ago, I actually started playing, and
Oh man, once the bug gets you, you're in.
yeah.
Oh, dude, like when we play it, we fucking play it. Like, holy
Yeah.
shit. Bai has seen them. What the hell have I not seen them? What the fuck? I missed out on the funny ass alien zombies. Let me look this up right now.
I'm looking it up. Oh yeah. Oh, I do remember these actually. No, I do remember this. I when the game first came out, they had like the fucking sort of story mode esque thing.
Yep, and they, like yeah, you followed Baldy and you had like a little story tutorial.
Holy
thing.
Yeah.
shit, this
I-
looks terrible.
I do actually remember
Mhm.
that.
It was a very different game back then.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I love you, devs, but wow, you've progressed.
I didn't play it then, but I've seen a lot of things about people playing it. I just didn't have a good enough computer to play it then.
Wow. I am shooketh. I am like, wow. All right,
Yeah.
we're gonna raid into Sensei Suplex today. They are playing.
Hey.
They are playing some D&D. They are dinosaur hunting. So wow,
Nice.
perfect.
Follow his channel. Sensei Suplex is the best. I love that guy.
Yeah, awesome stuff over there. So, and other than that, everything began somewhere. Sam, what did I miss? What happened?
Let's see.
Oh, raid message. Yep, of course. Sorry about that.
I got it.
You got it? Okay. AJ is doing that. Check us out on Tuesday. We are coming back with Token Tuesday, 3 p.m. PST. Me and Kaz are going to be going over all of the monsters in the Monster Manual and beyond for tokens. We're going to be doing them in my pixel art style, and he's going to be doing them in his awesome anime / rubber hose style. And then we got our House of the Dragon finale discussion on Wednesday, and our episode 8 on Thursday. Roro,
Tomorrow.
our final, not final of course, but our big Roro binge of every Friday is going to be on this Friday at 6 p.m. And then on Saturday we got our D&D horror one shot that AJ is going to be DMing.
Is me.
It's going to be a blast. I'm going to be playing a cool ass creature from the Black Lagoon in that game. It's going to be awesome.
I'm so sad that I couldn't make that. I really genuinely wanted
You'll be
to.
there for the Christmas one, my guy.
Yeah, that sounds more feasible.
We're all going to be elves in that one. We're going to have to save Santa.
Quick shout out to on my channel, Mumble Quest, which is our D&D game, is going to be premiering on Tuesday the 25th. If you like D&D and not like taking it seriously, come check it out. It's going to be a big goofy show.
And that's about it. That's all we have time for. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. McClunky! Zoop.
That.
All good.
Yeah,
all good.
you can use
That went well.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
one